Something I see a lot of in the retro gaming community is that there's almost like these unspoken rules that there's certain consoles you have to collect for. For example, if you're a fan of Nintendo, you gotta collect for the original NES. How could you be a Nintendo fan if you don't? Or if you're a fan of Sega, then you have to collect for the Sega Genesis because that's such a pivotal part of their history. So does not collecting for certain consoles make you any less of a retro gamer? Of course not. And sure, that's probably a pretty predictable answer, but I want to talk about this because I know a lot of us feel pressure to like certain consoles and collect for certain consoles in order to prove the validity of our fandom. For example, I consider myself a huge fan of Sega stuff, but I do not collect for Sega Master System. But here's the thing, I think there's a difference between not collecting for a console and just straight up not even giving it a chance. Now, initially I thought, I don't think I would like the Sega Master System, but let me at least look into it, check out the games, and really deep dive through all the different recommended games that people talk about for it to see if it's something that I would like. And that way I'm giving it a fair chance so that when I look at my collection and see that I don't have any Master System stuff, I can feel okay about it because I know that I gave it a fair chance. Now, does this mean that I will never ever collect for the Sega Master System? Of course not. I will continue to reevaluate it down the road just to see if my perspective on it has changed at all and I perhaps have a different view and am more tempted to collect it or look into all of the games again. Funny enough, that exact same approach actually worked wonders for me when it came to the Sega Dreamcast of all things. Yeah, you'd guess by the way I talk about the Sega Dreamcast that I had always been a huge fan of it, but it actually took me a while to warm up to it, and over the years I just grew to really understand what it was about and develop a deep appreciation for its games. I would like to think that when I talk on this channel about all these various consoles and all the great things that they have going for them, it doesn't make you feel pressure. You personally feel pressure to collect for that system or play it. It's merely, here's a console, here's some of the things that people like about it, and if that's for you, then go for it. If you've been watching this channel for a while, then you'll notice that I tend to generally talk about the more popular retro consoles, but the thing is, not everybody likes every single popular retro console, and that's okay. My hope would be that perhaps when I'm talking about a console you don't care as much about, in a way it could be more interesting because the consoles you don't like as much, you generally don't spend as much time looking into yourself. So if I can talk about it and kind of save you some of the trouble of that evaluation process, then I'd be glad to do that. And I think it's also a way to help you give the console more of a fair chance because I'm presenting all the positive things about the console and then you can evaluate it for yourself and think, hey, are these positive aspects things that I would actually enjoy or not? And oftentimes that can help assure some of my viewers that they don't want to collect for a certain console. For example, after the Sega Saturn video, a lot of you were like, yeah, that's why I don't collect for that system. I feel good about not collecting for it. But it was interesting to hear about it since it does have a bit of a reputation in the retro gaming community. Also, a lot of times thinking about what you don't like can help you reaffirm why you like the things that you do. For example, when it comes to a console like the PS1, many of you may think, isn't that early 3D stuff? Ugh, get that out of my face. But then it helps you think, yeah, this is why I really like 2D games. I just really appreciate the style and gameplay mechanics of 2D games over those 3D games, and especially those early 3D games. And then maybe you realize, oh, the PlayStation actually does have some 2D games and some pretty good ones. And so it can help you come to that conclusion and maybe help you consider the PS1 in a way that you never considered it before and realize that it does have something for you with those 2D games. I think what it comes down to is that every console serves a purpose for somebody, and some consoles may just serve a purpose for more people than other consoles, and these are generally the most popular consoles, and they end up getting labeled as must-have consoles. I don't think there's anything malicious going on here where people think you have to have a certain console. I mean, yeah, there are people who think that, but in general, it's just consoles that are really popular and people really like, and so they think, Hey, I really think anybody who's into retro gaming would probably like this console, at least some of the games for it. As you can probably tell, I'm just very against the term must have, because the term must have almost, it like turns it into homework or something where there's this obligation. You have to do it. There's not this like freedom where you get to choose it on your own. And I think that just goes against the very spirit of what retro gaming is all about, because retro gaming is very much about the freedom of being able to choose what we want to play. Whether we're conscious of it or not, we're kind of making the decision when we play retro games to not be playing modern games, which is what the video game industry would have us doing if it were up to them. And sure, a lot of us may play both modern games and retro games, but ideally the gaming industry would probably want us to just be playing modern games, since that's what they can monetize most heavily. And sure, they do have ways of monetizing retro gaming, but somebody like me who just has a shelf full of cartridges, that's very much me choosing to do my own thing. The video game industry doesn't make any money off of these. These were sold decades ago. Retro gaming is all about saying you don't have to just play the newest video games. The older video games are still fun and in some ways even better than what's currently being offered. And in that sense, there's nothing we must have when it comes to playing video games. We choose to play what we want. But what about must-have games? Yikes, we'll cover that in a different video because that's an entirely different subject. But I do want to hear what your thoughts are when it comes to this video. What are some of the consoles people generally seem to label as must-have consoles in your eyes, and what's your comfort level with maybe not collecting for some of those? I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. So be sure to leave those comments down below, and I will see ya in the next video.